All right, welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. I'm that other dude, Andrew, and I'm joined as always by Heather.
Hello.
And today we're talking episode number 91. We're doing that slow crawl to number 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
And today it was your turn in the rotation, and you had suggested a band that I wasn't familiar with, although after listening to I should be. I say them because really it's a one-person operation who masterminds everything. But I will give you the baton and you can run with it since this was your choice to discuss Devil's Witches.
Okay. Well, Devil's Witches, uh, they're out of the UK. I've been following Devil's Witches for a while, and what attracted me was how much love and respect is shown for women. He's a champion of women, and that is so nice to see. And the latest album, it's called In All Her Forms, and that was actually released in October of last year. So we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the album release. I think this album is truly a work of art. While it's a doom album, it's so much more than that. It's a concept and a story. It's dark and mysterious, and there's also exaltation. There's all these different instruments that help bring it to life. It's 4 parts, and I thought the album cover art was very interesting because it depicts 4 women. The themes are maiden, mistress, mother, and matriarch. And there's 3 songs each for a total of 12 songs on the album. Devil's Witches, it's Witch Doctor General, who is a multi-instrumentalist and also brings in other musicians to collaborate with. I read a very interesting interview. It's on Psychedelic Baby magazine, and I really encourage you to read it. I was stunned at what we have in common, like isolation as a child, the escapes of books, video games and movies, as well as music, getting the confidence to express yourself, even if it's not in a conventional way, going by feeling and instinct. I also want to mention that he didn't necessarily want to explain what all the songs meant. He wanted the album to be participatory and experience and encourage listener autonomy, which I think is pretty cool because I think based on what your life experience is, when you listen to it, I think you're going to pull different things from this album. I think different people are going to pull different things from it, which I think it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Um, well, I certainly did. Um, and I will be more than happy to project what I think everything means.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, Devil's Witches. Um, it's largely a solo project, as you had mentioned, although there are other musicians that will join in. Um, from James in Scotland. He's from Glasgow, Scotland. And I only bring that up because it gives me the opportunity to say Glaswegian, which I believe is what you refer to people from Glasgow. You say they're Glaswegians. I just wanted to say the word Glaswegian. I've already said it 3 times, so if that's one of the words that you do shots to, then pump the brakes a little bit. But yeah, I listened to 2 albums. I did the most recent release of In All Her Forms, which Heather just spoke about. And then I went back to the very beginning and listened to Velvet Magic, which I think was the first release, partially because anything with velvet in it, you've got me. In fact, we listened to Lord Velvet recently, and I was attracted to them simply because their name was Lord Velvet. It turned out that they were a great band too. Um, and yeah, it's interesting because Velvet Magic, um, this one in all her forms, I think there's much more happening. He's branched out in other directions and incorporated other genres of music. Whereas Velvet Magic, I think, is a little bit more straightforward. Um, when I threw on the first track, Apache Snow, it was like, walking into a bar where everyone knew your name and your drink is waiting for you. I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be dynamite. Um, and yeah, it was. Apache Snow is one of the better Doom tracks. I mean, I was nodding my head to it. You definitely got a side head nod. Um, and there are some interesting titles too, like Pornodelic Opium Dreams, which I was very curious about what that meant. And then I listened to the track and I realized the music is, if you haven't done opium or you're not familiar with a pornodelic opium dream, like I was not, the music is the audio equivalent of that. So it's very much psychedelic and will take you to the play. If you've seen the movie Once Upon a Time in America, in the beginning of it, Robert De Niro is in an opium den at one point, and I feel like that's the song that would be playing in the background. Um, Either way, I'm getting way off the rails here, but in all her forms, as Heather mentioned, maiden, mistress, mother, matriarch, various guises, um, archetypes. Um, I also dug, again, there are some really heavy, really doomy songs like Successive Slidings of Pleasure and Hymn for the Super Vixen. So if you're looking for the heavier, I mean, the tone that is achieved on this is monumental. I mean, it's a monumental tone. I felt like I was riding the top of a wave that was going to crest at any moment, and I was just going to eat surf. But I was in the pocket the whole time. Uh, and then there are some really cool ballads like Tides of Jupiter and Smoke and Sorcery, which is more of a bluesy type ballad. So there's really a ton of music for everyone to enjoy on in all her forms. And Velvet Magic, if you're more in the doom, if you want more like there is still ballad type stuff on Velvet Magic, but definitely recommended. Um, and also, I was curious as to what the name was, Devil's Witches, and I thought perhaps it could be literal. So I read throughout the early modern period, many Europeans believed in the reality of witchcraft. Those accused of being diabolic witches were thought to have signed a pact with Satan to worship him, attend Sabbaths, and devise way to harm humans through malfeasance. So it could be very literal. The devil's, the witches of the devil's witches. Um, the other thing I thought, and this was interesting, there was a lot of uh, you sort of brought this up, a lot of movie references to like the 70s. I got the sense that like Russ Meyer was influential, um, and I thought that the Devil's Witches could be the various representations of the women in these movies, um, who are sort of the starlets of kind of softcore horror. Those would be the quote unquote Devil's Witches, but I could be wrong. Frequently, I am wrong, um, but it's fun to like pontificate about this stuff. I mean, we must have come up with at least 10 different things that Murloc could have been when we talked about the
Yeah.
band, and we were wrong about all of them.
Well,
So
I think Devil's Witches is interesting because another thing I read in the interview was he had grown up in a religious cult,
sure, sure.
you
I think
know?
I may have read the same interview. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was really really interesting, and getting out of the cult and kind of finding your own way through life, and the fact that it's called Devil's Witches, I think is really interesting.
Sure. Well, I really, as someone who likes to write, I also appreciate that there's a certain amount of creativity you have when you put something out in the world, but really it's up to the audience to decide how they're going to interpret what everything means. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes artists can over explain what their intention is, and that takes some of the magic away. Um,
Yeah.
I'm also, I think it was, and I'm not trying to sound smart here. I think it was Magritte, the painter, who once said sometimes a hat is just a hat. People would look for symbolism in all his work. I could be wrong about who said that or the item in question, but either way, I would check out. I would start backward, get the latest release in all her forms. It's certainly the most sophisticated of the albums that I listened to, and it branched out into different genres. So definitely, I mean, he's extremely talented to be able to do all the stuff that he's doing. And I will go back and check out all the other releases. There's a lot going on here that I didn't get on the first or second listen, even.
And just the fact that it came as like pictures inside of his head, you know, all the ideas are pictures, and then to take that, a picture inside of your head, and put it into music, and put that concept into an album and create what was created, I think is just phenomenal.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think I remember reading that all the songs typically start out as him noodling around on his acoustic guitar, because that's something that's always in his hands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the more I read, the more I was like, this is really awesome just as a concept. And the fact that he's made all this music out of it is something that I plan on revisiting time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So well done, Heather. I think if you were playing baseball, you'd be in the Hall of Fame for your batting average. It's just, I don't think you've had any misses yet.
Well, I'm sure there has been, but you're probably too nice to say anything.
Well, I think there's if we're talking about like taste and preference, I'm
Yeah.
sure there have been bands you've suggested that I haven't gravitated toward, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that they're not great. It's not great music.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably batting 1,000 on the great music. I'll give you like 800 on our the Venn diagram lining up properly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's why that's half the reason why this is fun
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
not knowing what's in store.
Yeah, because it's funny because we have very similar taste in music, but there's enough of, you know, there's enough of what I listen to versus what you listen to that's so different from each other,
Sure,
that makes it it's a unique experience.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, I say this every week. You're not gonna find the same ingredients that make up this special sauce on any other show. Like you're not gonna find someone as kind and conscientious as Heather, and you're not going to find someone as long-winded and tangential as me. It's just not going to happen.
And the stuff that pops into your head, and the movie references, and the
Yeah, and I wear this dope hat that I got in 1987 that still fits like a
yeah.
glove.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
well, also I'd be curious to find out. So if you're watching this, Jason, I would be curious to know where you got some of the names for your titles. Um, some of them, like Hymn for the Super Vixen, leads me to believe that my Russ Meyer uh, insight was correct. But Tides of Jupiter, I'd love to know. And Successive Slidings of Pleasure, that just sounds like something really cool. And I'd want to know the derivation of that.
Yeah.
But either way, I will be checking out the rest of your music because you can now consider me. That sound you hear is me jumping on the bandwagon for Devil's Witches.
Yes. Yeah. Which a
So,
lot, which I hope more people will jump on that bandwagon and check it out and
yeah,
become a fan.
but it's easy music to like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Me too.
Cool. Well, that'll do it for. I would say check out In All Her Forms first. Work backward till you get to Velvet Magic. You won't be disappointed. And of course, Heather and I will be back next week with more jams. But in the meantime, have a happy Columbus Day. Have a happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Relax, get some rest. Go check out Devil's Witches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we will see you all soon.
Mm. Bye.